Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 3 of the anime series Shokugeki no Soma, or Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. And this is just another blast of an episode. I absolutely love the over-the-top absurdity and the comedy that serves as the foundation for this particular series. I love being able to champion Soma in his getting set up against these people who just look so hardcore down on him. Everything. And at the start of this episode, we're being debuted to one of the new characters of the series, Megumi. You know, I say one of because if you look at that crowd scenario in the early portion of the episode, we do actually see sort of, blink and you'll miss it shots of other tentative characters that will be debuting along the course of the series. But they really focus on Megumi here, and I love that you find that she's kind of from humble origins, not necessarily similar, but kind of along the same lines as Soma himself. And, she's basically on a thin string before being sent packing, she's just gotten bad grade after bad grade after bad grade, and because Soma walks up into this joint, he is the air quotes transfer student who was approved, even though Erina said she wasn't going to approve him. I think the grandfather had something to do with that, as we saw toward the tail end of the previous episode. And he's, basically he's got this chip on his shoulder, this pomposity, but it's charismatic. It's not like disdainful or hateful of other people. He's just like, I'm going to own this joint. I'm going to be number one, and you can all eat my dust. And by the way, have a nice day, So he's, making friends and influencing people from right off the bat, making plenty of enemies, in case you couldn't catch the sarcasm. And he meets Erina, who is like, well, I don't recognize you as an actual student. I don't recognize your prowess, and he's basically right up in her face taking on that challenge. I will get to the point where I make you say something I've created is delicious. And I like that we're calling to the Mafia Don, the gourmand himself, the grandfather, who oversees this entire academy, kind of smugly laughing about this, because the question is, is his interest, are his motivations something to do with Soma, history with his family, or is he maybe looking for somebody to put Erina in her place? Maybe he thinks she's too pompous and she needs to be a little more humble. And so that's absolutely hilarious. Whatever, it's kind of a mystery, and however that unfolds will be fun to see. Of course, because of Soma's making so many enemies, Megumi, is inadvertently sidled up with him, and she thinks this is probably for the worst. And, if you're sort of following along with the themes and the way the story's been going from episode 1 to 3, that's probably not the case. Soma will come in and he will make some sort of delicious dish and win the day. But I like the sort of adversity and challenges as they are presenting themselves that they have to deal with. In this case, they're making this, beef bourguignon or whatever exactly it's called. It's kind of like a stew, I guess. And it's interesting because he's not familiar with it, and he's like looking at the, whiteboard with the recipe, and he's just awed and in wonder over all of the herbs and spices that are in this classroom. And I love how he's completely out of his element. Like he didn't know the history of Erina, and he wasn't really, impressed. He's kind of like Spike Spiegel, and he's just kind of like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna bring it. Same thing with this particular sensei, the schoolmaster teacher, who is, the chef who never smiles, we're told, because he's very hardcore as far as how he judges by his palate and the creation of these dishes. It's his expectation that you walk into the kitchen, you're already a cook. It's not about learning, it's about bringing what you already have, the skills internally. And I love that. While you have Soma over here looking at spices, you have Megumi going to get serving dishes. She is, right down to the letter, almost obsessively looking at putting the ingredients together and timing it correctly and everything like that. But she does slip away long enough for two of these jerk faces in their class to sabotage their dish by dumping a whole bunch of salt. And they figure, well, at least Megumi does, they don't have enough time left to, reproduce this. But of course, Soma, the sort of, knife master or cooking master, whatever you want to call him, because as he tells Erina earlier in the episode, he's been holding a knife since he was age 3 or whatever. He's been in a kitchen all his life. he's thinking on his feet, you know, and he grabs honey. Honey being sort of an element that wasn't supposed to be put in the pot, but this helps make, you know, the meat turn over sort of quicker. You know, it's just, I love that, you know, he's able to do that. He's able to call back on all of the things he's learned. It's not just coming to him naturally. He's not some sort of, you know, gourmand god, you know, with some supernatural powers. He very much says, this was something I learned after reading a cookbook, and pineapple could cure the meat quicker, and what else did I have? I tested out other things. We see peanut butter among other things. But it's trial and error, you know, that he has learned this stuff. He's self-taught. And I couldn't have more high respect for a character like that. My father was self-taught in both being an electrician and building car engines from scratch, just looking at books and doing it himself. And, you know, it's kind of sort of the similar thing with me in writing. And so anyone who tries to practice a profession and can naturally come upon success with it, but also, you know, the trial and error, they don't give up. In other words, he is a character who hasn't given up, and that's kind of what it is. It's not like a pomposity like, oh, I'm better than everyone else. It's, I've learned, I've taught myself, I'm going to be happy and you know, sort of revel in the achievements I can make, and you know, believe in myself. And so he whips up a brand new dish. He gets it done quicker than even the two saboteurs in the classroom, and he makes the chef that wouldn't smile crack an ear-to-ear grin. He's in delight. We see Megumi tastes, you know, some of the meat. And again, I love the over-the-top sort of imaginary sequence of all these little Soma-headed bees, and they're like, bzz, 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 you know, the noise, the sound effects that they make, and everything sounds like he's grunting. And she's being soaked in honey, and, you know, it's all melting in her mouth and all this stuff. So she feels like they've absolutely succeeded. She, you know, was sidled up with somebody very good. They do get an A rating, and this guy is like, it's my chief regret. And you're thinking, uh-oh, what's he going to say now? But then he says that I can't give you a higher grade. That's how good this dish was. And it was, you know, I'm just ear-to-ear grinning myself by the end. And then, of course, you know, you have elements like Erina finding out about this, and she's making it her mission statement to go after him pointedly. You have these two characters that keep referring to each other as brothers, a blonde kid and a big heavyset guy. And they're in a different class, but, you know, it's the blonde guy's contention that if they were in the same class as Soma, they would have nailed him. They're kind of gunning for him, I guess. I guess they're going to be adversaries amongst many. And so it should be interesting to see how this all plays out. And it looks like we're moving on to another sort of crazy academic scenario, or somebody, you know, who has a spectacular palette and will be judging Soma's work in the next episode. But yeah, mad fun series. Love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 3, and you know, whether you were laughing along with it, whether it's something you're not really palating yourself as an anime fan. Let me know in the comments below, as long as there's no spoilery material, as I always ask. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.